forgot, we have a special surprise for you today, as long as you guys promise to behave. Ty, were you going to come up here and help me? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the good Reverend Alex Haynes. He's from Lutheran Memorial Church right across the street. He grew up in the Twin Cities. His pastoral work brought him here. He's got a 3-year-old or a 3-month-old at home. So the Reverend Alex Haynes is going to lead us in prayer, and he's going to be followed by our page, Grace Wolf. Here she is. Grace Wolf is from Leola.
I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer. Lord, you rule your people and you are the ruler of the universe. You've allowed us to institute governments among ourselves, and that is good. Lord, when we quip that if men were angels, no government would be necessary, we recall that angels do have government and you are their ruler. Lord, you intend rules to be created and kept in custom and in law, so we may have true communion. You intend temptations to sin to be curbed, so we may love our neighbors. You intend the freedom to worship you to be protected, so we may glorify your name. Ruler of the universe, humble us, that under God and only under God, the people rule. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Bartel.
Here.
Madam Clerk, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I forgot to tell you, those of us that are in this caucus, but we have a special treat today. Okay? Today, I'd like you to pay attention. You can stand if you want to, but we're going to have a little song in the chamber today. This is Deputy Secretary of Tourism, Wanda Goodman. You might remember she sang to us last year because she was so awesome at the tourism conference. Well, at this year's tourism conference, she received the award for having the best Department of Tourism in the country. So would you join me in welcoming Deputy Secretary Wanda Goodman?
I'll be singing Battle of the Republic today for you, and feel free to join in on the chorus or anytime if you would like. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling
Well, I've learned something new today. Not only is she a wonderful singer and good at her job, but guess who her sister is? Any of you know Sheila Gestring? She's the Vice President of Finance at the University of South Dakota. She's also very good at her job. Okay, Madam Clerk, approval of the journal.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Chief Clerk of the House has had under consideration the House Journal of the 10th day. All errors, typographical or otherwise, are duly marked in the temporary journal for correction, and we hereby move the adoption of the report. Respectfully submitted, G. Mark Mickelson, Chair.
Discussion on the motion. Discussion. All in favor of approval of the journal, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The journal's approved. Reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Education respectfully reports that Senate Bill 18 do pass and be placed on the consent calendar. House Bill 1099 do pass as amended. Respectfully submitted, Timothy Johns, Chair. The Committee on State Affairs respectfully reports that House Bill 1012 and 1081 do pass, House Joint Resolution 1001 do pass, and House Bill 1105 do pass and be placed on the consent calendar. Respectfully submitted, Larry Roden, Chair. Also, Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Judiciary respectfully reports that House Bill 1096, 1104 do pass, 1095 and 1097 do pass and be placed on the consent calendar, and 1053 do pass as amended and be placed on the consent calendar. Respectfully submitted, Mike Stevens, Chair. Also, Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Commerce and Energy respectfully reports that House Bill 1078 and 1093 do pass, 1101 do pass and be placed on the consent calendar, 1088, 1082, and 1094 do pass as amended. Respectfully submitted, Tim Rounds, Chair. Also, Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Office of Engrossing and Enrolling has carefully compared House Bills 1048, 1049, and 1068 and finds the same correctly enrolled. Respectfully submitted, G. Mark Mickelson, Chair.
Messages.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to transmit herewith Senate Bills number 38, 59, 68, 72, 74, 75, 79, 82, and 88, which have passed the Senate and your favorable consideration is respectfully requested. Respectfully, Kay Johnson, Secretary. Also, Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to return herewith House Bill numbers 1048 and 1049 and 1068, which have passed the Senate without change. Respectfully, Kay Johnson, Secretary.
Motions, resolutions.
Yesterday, Representative Willardson announced his intention to reconsider the vote by which House Bill 1033 lost. Representative Willardson moved that the House do now reconsider the vote by which House Bill 1033 lost.
Discussion on that motion.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Willardson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I would politely ask for the body to approve this motion to reconsider House Bill 1033. I do have an amendment that I would like to be able to bring forward for this bill. I think you'll find the information in the amendment worthwhile, and so I would encourage you to vote green to reconsider House Bill 1033. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Willitson. Further remarks on the motion to reconsider? Seeing none, the question before the body is Representative Willitson's motion to reconsider House Bill 1003. All those members in favor shall vote aye. All those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine. The members shall proceed to vote. Representative Greenfield?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. On behalf of Representative Tolson and myself, we'd like to welcome up in our audience above the Speaker, Dave and Darcy Adam, and they're from the Crocker area, and also my good friend, Ruby Holborn, Ruby Wadsworth Holborn. Stand up.
Very good. Let's welcome them. Anyone else?
Thank you for coming to visit us today.
Representative Allers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. In our audience in our gallery today is a former member of this body. He was my high school government teacher. He was my colleague in the legislature in 2009 and 2010, and he will always be my friend, former Representative Warren Sorensen.
Hey, here. Well, you did good.
Mr. Speaker.
Who's talking to me? Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, last week you met our middle son. I would like to introduce to you our oldest son, Lucas Peterson. He's in the gallery up front.
Representative Greenfield. Representative Rosen.
Representative Gosh.
Latitude 2 personal privileges, please.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to recognize with the group that stood up earlier, a group called South Dakotans for Safe and Responsible Renewable Energy. They're here representing 13 counties here today. Would you guys please stand up?
Let's welcome them.
And then also I'd like to recognize my daughter Tegan here. She's 8. And I've got a 4-year-old, who's almost 5, a 2-year-old, and my wife Ashley.
Let's welcome the Spencer Gosh family. See, she takes after you. All right.
Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 48, 17 nays, and 5 excused.
Okay, Representative Willison's motion to reconsider House Bill 1033, having received the majority vote of the members elect, is hereby declared passed.
Representative Willitson moved that House Bill 1033 be placed at the bottom of today's calendar, the calendar of Wednesday, January 24th, 2018, the 11th legislative day.
Discussion on that motion. Go ahead. Representative Willitson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd just like to thank the members of the House for giving us this opportunity. I think when we get to the bill, you'll recognize that it's a good amendment and we can go on and pass it. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the body is Representative Willison's motion that we place House Bill 1033 on the bottom of today's calendar, Wednesday, January 24th. All those members in favor shall vote aye. All those opposed, no. Clerk will unlock the voting machine. The members shall proceed to vote. Representative Bartley.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, on behalf of myself and Majority Leader Qualm, I'd like you to please help us welcome to the gallery the Gregory High School government class, their teacher, Mr. Brian Almendinger, and members of the American Legion that accompanied them here today. And just for your information, these are the Mighty Gorillas, who are two-time defending state high school 9AA champions.
All right, well, let's give them a warm welcome. Nice to have you here.
Representative Campbell, Carson, DeSanto, Hawley. Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are yeas 52, nays 13, and excused 5.
Representative Williston's motion, having received the majority vote of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. Okay, that'll be on the bottom of today's calendar.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Qualm moved that Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 2 be deferred to Thursday, January 25th, 2018, the 12th legislative day.
Okay, all in favor of the Qualm motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
House Concurrent Resolution 1005. A concurrent resolution commending and recognizing the numerous contributions made by South Dakota's social workers and recognizing March 2018 as National Social Work Month. Representative Qualm moved that when we adjourn today, we adjourn to convene at 1 p.m. on Thursday, January 25th, 2018, the 12th legislative day.
All in favor of the Qualm motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Consideration of committee reports.
Representative Qualm moved that the reports of the Standing Committee on Transportation on House Bill 1008, as found on page 142, and House Bill 1066, as found on page 143 of the House Journal, be adopted.
All in favor of the Qualm motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. First reading of House bills. So we're going to read a lot of House bills over each other here because when we wrote the Constitution, the folks that came before us, they didn't have computers and they couldn't read things, so we read everything out loud. So this is our complying with the constitutional requirement. The Speaker assigns to House Agriculture 1148 and 1156, to Joint Appropriations 1166 and 1171, to Commerce 1146, 1153, 1159, and 1164, to Education 1155 and 1165, to Judiciary 1145, 1149, 1157, and 1170, to Local Government 1147, 1154, 1161, 1163, 1167, 1168, 1169, 1180, and 1183. To State Affairs, House Joint Resolutions 1004 and 1005, and House Bills 1160, 1162, 1172, 1174, 1176, 1177, and 1182. To Taxation, 1175 and 1181. To Transportation, 1150, 1151, 1152, 1158, 1173, and 1179. And to Government Operations and Audit, 1178. First reading of Senate bills. So the Speaker assigns to Health, Senate Bill 75 and 88, to Judiciary 74, to State Affairs 68 and 79, to Transportation 59, 72, and 82, and to Retirement Laws 38. Consent calendar.
Senate Bill 57, an act to revise certain references regarding the contractor's excise tax.
Anyone have any questions on the consent calendar? Representative Otten, you got any questions on the consent calendar? No. Hearing none, the question before the body is final passage of the consent calendar. All those members in favor will vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the member shall proceed to vote. I got a little help up here. Right up here, Dan Heineman. There he is. Give us a wave. Turn around, guys. Dr. Dan Heineman from Canton. And I know he's related probably distantly to our own representative, Leslie Heineman. He is the past president of the South Dakota Medical Association. He's the vice president and medical officer with Sanford Health. He practiced family medicine in Canton for more than 20 years before becoming an administrator. Graduate of the USD School of Medicine. Completed a family practice residency in Sioux Falls, and he's been an active member of the State Medical Association since 1983. We've been without medical care due to the weather, so it's nice to have you here today, Dr. Heineman. Thank you for being here.
Representatives Goodwin, Greenfield, Marty, Peterson, Sue, and Smith. Representative Greenfield. Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 64, excused 6.
The consent calendar, having received the majority vote of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. Second reading of House bills.
House Bill 1005, an act to revise certain requirements for a recitation regarding the effect of a vote on certain ballot measures.
House Bill 1005, having had a second reading, is up for consideration and final debate. Are there any remarks? Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk.
Is that Amendment 1005WF?
Yes,
Do you wish to move it at this time?
I do.
Second? Go ahead, Representative Peterson. You may speak to both the amendment and the bill.
Thank you. House Bill 1005 was a product of the Initiative and Referendum Task Force from this summer that I had the opportunity to serve on. Currently, the Attorney General is charged with writing a clear and simple recitation of the effect of a ballot measure. With long, complex, and often convoluted ballot measures, a clear and simple statement is sometimes impossible. The Attorney General is forced to try to summarize measures with dozens of sections, often tens of pages, in about 5 words. It leads to recitations that are unclear at best and misleading at worst. House Bill 1005 changes the recitations for constitutional amendments, initiated measures, and referred laws to make them more straightforward. Going through the sections of the bill, Section 1 is reference cleanup. Section 2 has recitations for referred constitutional amendments and referred laws, and that's where the Amendment 1005 comes into play. This summer we had the discussion of changing how we looked at referred laws, and came out of the task force with changing the language opposite of how it is currently. After some consideration early in session and some different meetings with folks, we decided with the group of the folks that were on the task force this summer to change it back to how it currently is, and that's we had changed the bill. Coming out of the summer, it was changed, and we decided to change it back, and that's what this amendment is doing. Section 3 is some reference cleanup. Section 4 is recitations for initiated constitutional amendments and initiated measures. And Section 5, which is also included in the amendment, is a new section talking about the effective date. And the language in this Section 5 allows this to take effect this year. And working with the Attorney General's office and the Secretary of State's office to make sure implementation can work together, and everyone is on board. So basically, what we changed to was just simply this. For constitutional amendments, regardless of topic, it'll read, vote yes to adopt the amendment, vote no to leave the Constitution as it is. For all initiated measures, regardless of topic, it'll read, vote yes to adopt the initiated measure, vote no to leave South Dakota law as it is. And for all referred laws, regardless of topic, it will read, vote yes to allow the act of the legislature to become law, and vote no to reject the act of the legislature. The ballots will still include the AG's explanation and amendments titled directly above the recitations as well. So I would ask for your support of the amendment and the bill, and I'd be happy to stand by for any questions.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Goodwin?
I have a question for the sponsor.
Go ahead and state your question.
Does this have the approval of the Attorney General?
Representative Peterson, do you wish to answer that question?
I do. It does.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Further remarks? Representative Hawley?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to support the amendment. I thank the previous speaker for bringing the amendment forth. I think that was the biggest disagreement we had on the bill, was the terminology of what's a yes vote and what's a no vote. So I think this makes it a lot clearer, and thank you for bringing the amendment. Please support it.
Further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the body is adoption of Amendment 1005 WF. All those members in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Amendment carries. Further remarks on 1005 as amended? Seeing none, the question before the body is final passage of House Bill 1005 as amended. All those members in favor shall vote yes. Those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine. The member shall proceed to vote. Yes, Representative Rasmussen.
Special privilege, please.
Granted.
I have a couple here that I would like to introduce to you today. They're not only my neighbors, but they're my good friends, Joyce and Rich Vasgard from Viborg.
Oh, he's also on the county commission, or the planning commission down in Turner County, isn't he?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's welcome the Vasgards.
Representatives Dennert, Kaiser, Rounds. Thank you. Excuse me, that's Representatives McCleary, Mills, and York. Representative Ring. Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 61, nays 4, excused 5.
House Bill 1005, as amended, having received the majority vote of the members-elect, is hereby declared passed. Questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed approved.
House Bill 1032. An act to exempt credit unions from the requirements to be licensed as real estate brokers.
House Bill 1032, having received a second reading, is up for consideration and final remarks. Are there any remarks? Representative Pischke.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring before you the body today House Bill 1032. This bill will clarify that credit unions are exempt from licensing requirements for real estate brokers under Chapter 36-21A by exempting credit unions along with other similar entities under Codified Law 36-21A-29, subsection 8. Credit unions, which are regulated by the National Credit Union Administration, meet the statutory definition of real estate broker under South Dakota law. The Real Estate Commission has no record of receiving any complaints related to credit unions, but if it were to receive complaints, an investigation would follow to ensure credit unions were acting within the scope of the Federal Credit Union Act. The powers of credit unions are expressed in Section 1756 of federal statutes. So basically what we're saying here is that a vote for this bill is a vote against double regulation. These statutes are already cared for at the federal level, and I think that we should just pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks?
Mr. Speaker?
Yeah, Representative Bartles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 1032 proposes to add credit unions to a list of legal entities that are exempt from real estate licensure. And there is a section under the real estate broker where they can receive a fee for ranging for a mortgage on a land. And credit unions do that, but we also have another section of law that also controls this, which is mortgage brokerage, and they are exempt from that law. But the power within this is based on the scope of their corporate powers, and there's really no way for us to keep in check the corporate powers of a credit union. I think this bill needs some more review, and I expect that it will happen in the Senate. So I would hope that we would dispose of the bill today, and I will be voting no, though, however.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Conzett? No? Okay. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the body is final passage of House Bill 1032. All those members in favor shall vote yes. Those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine. The members shall proceed to vote. Representative Conzett. Representative Conzett. She's in the middle of being a committee chair right now, I think, with the bill.
Conzett votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 46, nays 19, and excused 5.
House Bill 1032, having received the majority vote of the members-elect, is hereby declared passed. Questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed approved.
Representative Quam moved that House Bill 1024 be deferred to Thursday, February 1st, 2018, the 15th legislative day.
All in favor of the Quam motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Representative Quam moved that House Bill 1103 be placed to follow House Bill 1033 on today's calendar.
All in favor of the Quam motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Hey, Sandy. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Perfect. Then we're doing okay. Yep. 1102.
Representative Quam moved that House Bill 1102 be placed to follow 1033 on today's calendar. Move to the bottom of the calendar.
Yep. The motion's to move House Bill 1102 to the bottom of today's calendar. All those members, second, questions. All those members in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
House Bill 1051, an act to revise certain provisions regarding suspension or debarment of a business by the Bureau of Administration.
House Bill 1051, having received its second reading, is up for final debate and passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. This is an act to actually kind of clean up and provide a better job of framing some conditions by which a contractor, somebody working for the state, can be barred from applying for the contract or bidding for the contract. Current law, if you refer to the bill, current law has only the words "for cause" as the reason that this can happen. That's extremely subjective. No other parameters, no other qualifications are currently in statute. And so what the bill is going to do, first of all, in line 7, it changes the suspension period from 3 months to 6 months to make the penalty a little stiffer. And then it goes on, all of the underlying sections starting on page 1 and continuing on to page 2. That's where it's adding the parameters whereby a contractor can be prevented from bidding on a state job. And so there's a framework there, there's an understanding there. Everybody knows what the rules are going forward. It includes things like if the contractor had been convicted of fraud or dishonesty, clearly that's not somebody we want bidding on a state job. You can read them there as well as I can. And So I would encourage your favorable vote on House Bill 1051. Thank you.
Why don't you slide over here, Ty, and we'll let her pound the gavel. Further remarks? Representative DeSanto? Then we'll go Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to offer a voice amendment.
Go ahead and state your amendment.
Page 2, line 1, strike subsection 3.
Okay, hang on a second now. I'm kind of lost. Okay, 1051, page 2, line 1. So strike the whole line.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Anything else in your voice amendment?
No, Speaker.
Okay, so the voice amendment is to strike line 1, page 2 in its entirety. Is there a second? Got a second? Further discussion on that motion to amend, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe that subsection 1 and 2 sufficiently cover the areas of concern, and that subsection 3 is too vague and could be open to too much interpretation.
Very good. Further remarks on Representative DeSanto's motion to amend? I'm going to just keep this open for a little bit. Okay, let folks kind of digest it, make sure you understand it. But her motion to amend is to strike line 1, page 2. Representative Haugard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to follow up on that motion to amend, in Rules Review Committee this summer, we saw a lot of issues that seemed to be far too broad in the grant of authority that we gave for the agencies to promulgate rules, and this would probably be one of those areas. Obviously, the intent is to fix some sort of parameters in regard to fraud, dishonesty, or inability to complete a project. And I know I did speak with one other member of the House just before we came on the floor, and that person was telling about an individual who seems to be able to get contracts even though he finds himself in jail for other things. But I'm afraid that would be more in the nature of whether or not the person can actually perform, and might reflect on whether or not they even want to associate with that individual. So I'm afraid that's more of a local issue, but this, if it was left to simply have failure to comply with laws and regulations, would be far too broad for the agency, and they'd end up promulgating rules that I think would go far beyond what the intent of this was. So I think the amendment's appropriate.
Further remarks? Representative Stevens.
Thank you, and I can understand. I guess I'm wondering, and the good representative, if we take a look at this, and on section 3, if we were to leave it in there, but to say failure to comply with labor laws or regulations, would that be sufficient?
Representative Stevens, you want to state that as a question to the sponsor of the amendment?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Well, the question, Representative DeSanto, did you hear the question? Why don't you go ahead and restate your question, Representative Stevens?
Okay. What I'm wondering is if we couldn't leave section 3 in there, but just add the word before laws called labor laws. So it would read failure to comply with labor laws or regulations. Would not that take care of your concerns?
Representative DeSanto, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, that would take care of it.
Does anyone wish to offer a substitute amendment? Go ahead, Representative Rounds.
I would like to offer an amendment.
Go ahead and state your amendment. Substitute amendment.
Substitute motion, page 2, line 1, failure to comply with, insert labor after the word with and prior to laws.
Got it. Further discussion on that motion? All right. Oh, I'm flashing back to Judiciary Committee right now. All right, so the motion to amend is to insert the word labor on page 2, line 1, between the words with and before the words laws. Everyone clear? Further discussion on that substitute motion to amend. Did we have we had a second? See none. All in favor of Representative Round's substitute motion to amend, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're now back on the original motion to amend, which we probably don't want to have pass. It's a substitute motion. We don't need to do it. Well, I was just doing what we did in State Affairs this morning, Representative Roden. All right. Okay, so that was a substitute motion, so we're not back on the original motion. We're now back on the bill as amended. Representative Wismer?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this amendment still. There was a good reason why the Bureau of Administration put failure to comply with laws or regulations in their proposal. As we heard the bill in Government Operations and Audit Committee, they told us that this entire list was similar to what is in federal rules for federal contracts, and they also indicated that the list was similar to what is used in screening transportation contracts and contractors. I think that failure to comply with laws or regulations is very important, and that limiting it only to labor laws or regulations even defeats the cause, the reason that they put that phrase in the bill, and it seriously decreases the value, what they wanted to accomplish in obtaining objective criteria for screening bad contractors. So again, I would urge your opposition to the amendment.
Now, Representative Wismer, we did vote and pass that amendment. We're now on the bill as amended.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Okay, further remarks? And that's just to the extent you can, we'll give people a heads up on your amendments, but this is all fine. Representative Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a question for the sponsor.
Go ahead and state your question.
I'm wondering on the stiffer penalty, what are the issues that we've been having? What are the problems that we're seeing that we need to have a stiffer penalty?
Okay, Representative Anderson, do you wish to answer that question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
It's just a matter of keeping them out of the loop of reapplying for contracts right away again. I mean, think about it. Somebody's been in violation of fraud. Do you want them right back in 3 months? 6 months probably isn't long enough. So that's all it amounts to. Just a little more reasonable time period for the penalty.
Very good. The floor is yours, Representative Howard. Anything further? Seeing nothing further. Further remarks? Representative Rounds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, as the author of the amendment, I'm still having some doubt that maybe we're too broad on this. But the purpose of the amendment, I think this is a good bill. I think we need to move it across to the other side. If we would have deleted line 3 completely, it may have gone awash over the other side. I think this gives them a bite at the apple to maybe narrow it down a little bit. But when you have something as simple as failure to comply with laws and regulations, a reckless driving event could mean something. Words mean something, especially if they're in statute. So with this amendment on, hopefully let's move it to the other side. They'll have it in committee, and if they need to fix this, it's going to come back for conference committee probably, hopefully, if they do fix it, and we can have this discussion again. But I ask for your vote on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Lesmeister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess a question for the sponsor.
Go ahead and state your question.
With very little debate we had on the amendment there, I would just ask him how he feels about the amendment. He hasn't really given us direction what he felt in it. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Anderson, you wish to answer that question?
Well, I would have preferred it in its original form, but it seemed as though the mood of the body was to amend.
Representative Lesmeister, did he answer your question? I'm just kidding. Did you have anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will take it that he's just following along with the mood of the body, but I guess I feel a little bit opposition for the amendment here. That's where I'm just trying to get clarity. He brought a good bill, I think, and maybe there's some feelings otherwise about the teeth in it, but without him really getting a chance to speak, I just thought I'd give him the opportunity to really get after it, but I'll accept his thoughts.
Very good, thank you. Further remarks? House Bill, all right, Representative Hanoff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, this is an intent to go from very broad to narrow it up. I think what we're trying to do is, and this bill came from the Bureau of Administration, is as we're developing internal control within state government and the executive branch of government, the intent is that we have things in place that we are being held or holding them accountable so that any of the people we are doing business with, we've got some guidelines, and it isn't broad and it isn't subjective so that somebody comes in and a good example was the driving, and I'm just going to say the question I had heard an example, well, what if somebody gets picked up for a DUI and then they use that to take the bid away? Well, if I'm a carrier and I have a contract and I've got 3 or 4 DUIs out there and I have a contract to drive vehicles for the state of South Dakota, shouldn't that be something that is considered when they're looking at getting the services from us? So again, it may be that I will answer, I guess, when the question was asked, are you comfortable with the amendment? I'm not, but I think it's more important that we pass something that has some parameters, and if we still feel there's some issues there, it can be worked over in the Senate and come back to us. But I want to applaud. This is a beginning. We're being proactive in holding people accountable for what they should be doing for the state of South Dakota, and if they're not in compliance with the contract and we've got definite parameters, we are not going to continue to receive those services or continue that contract. So I would hope you would pass the bill, and if there's serious concerns about that section, we can certainly work it out over in the other house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further remarks? Representative Lust.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the sponsor, but it's more directed at BOA. If I may ask the question, I don't think you'll be able to answer it.
Go ahead and state your question.
On lines 9 and 10, on page 1, do you know what the administrative remedies would be absent an appeal of the debarment ruling?
Representative Anderson, do you wish to answer that question?
I will attempt to, just because he didn't think I could.
Well, those lawyers like to answer their own questions sometimes.
And this may be completely wrong, but
well, you shouldn't have led with it. You shouldn't have led with that.
The administrative remedy, you'll notice that first of all, in the existing language, any action to do this has to have a hearing. It isn't that the Bureau of Administration can just arbitrarily send a letter out saying you're done, we ignore you. It didn't work that way. You still have to go through the administrative hearing process. And then beyond that, of course, in lines 11 and 12 on page 2, it does allow for promulgation of rules, again, through Chapter 126 of our code. So they will have to go out and set up any further procedure or process in order to do this.
Representative Lust, anything else?
Well, I would just ask the director of BOA to get me an answer to that when he gets a chance. That answer was not satisfactory. The way that's worded is you cannot, a business shall exhaust each administrative remedy before commencing any action to challenge a debarment or suspension. My hunch and supposition is that the action you would begin with is an appeal of that disbarment ruling. So I don't know that that language accomplishes much, but I'll follow up. It's not enough to raise my opposition to the bill, but I'll follow up with BOA. Thank you.
You weren't issuing a call to the House for the Secretary of the Bureau of Administration. Is he subject to our jurisdiction? All right. Anything else? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the body is final passage of House Bill 1051 as amended. All those members in favor shall vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the member shall proceed to vote.
Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 55, nays 10, and excused 5.
House Bill 1051 is amended, having received the majority vote of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. We have any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed approved.
House Bill 1079, an act to authorize certain physical therapists to perform dry needling as a treatment technique.
House Bill 1079, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final debate. Are there any remarks? Representative Steinhauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill expands the scope of practice for the physical therapist to include a procedure called dry needling. Dry needling is a skilled intervention that uses very, very fine needles to penetrate the skin and stimulate underlying tissue. Think of trigger points. In talking to physical therapists, getting to those deep tissues and trigger points is a very difficult task sometimes for the physical therapist and with this very fine needle, much like an acupuncture needle, they're able to get to the trigger points and release them and stimulate healing. And the thing that really attracted me to this is in talking to physical therapists, it's a great alternative to pain medications. We all know about the opioid crisis and the medications and the problems that they cause. So an alternative to address people's pain is good. The other thing is it can greatly reduce the series of treatments that can sometimes run into some costs, even if you're on insurance. A PT treatment might be several in a month as opposed to one deductible for a pill. Well, if you can take the number of treatments from 6 down to 2 or 3 because of dry needling, that's a good step. It avoids drugs and it reduces costs. So basically what we're talking about is adding another tool in the kit box, in the toolbox for physical therapists, and they're doctors of physical therapy. Now, this is a procedure that's already approved in 34 states. The training requirements have come up as something that's been a concern by some of you, and you'll notice the bill allows the Board of Medical and Osteopathic Examiners to promulgate rules to set the training requirements. Some of you said, well, why don't we at least have minimum requirements? Let me just talk to you a little bit about that. First of all, when you get a doctorate in PT, most of the skills are already, they've already been trained on those. Plus, the Bureau of Medical and Osteopathic Examiners will likely, in our opinion, add some, and I believe the PTs are prepared to recommend some, but there was no need for them to establish minimum standards before the practice was allowed in South Dakota. And I think the minimum standard, all we have to do is look at the 43 states that already allow dry needling. If you look at the 43 states, only 13 have required additional training beyond the doctorate of physical therapy. So what's that mean? The minimum standard is no additional training for 30 states. No additional training in 30 other states. Is it effective? From those, interestingly enough, I've been able to talk to a couple people that have had experience with it, and it appears to be, the testimony in the committee was very positive. The side effects, it's interesting to me that less than 3% even indicated pain. Now, I don't even like getting shots, so a needle to go deep into the tissue is quite surprising. Some have said, well, penetrating the skin is a concern, but PTs are already allowed to do that with something called an electromyography, and that is a diagnostic process that puts needles into the skin, into the tissue, and measures the electric waves and how they interact with the muscles. So it's a process of penetrating the skin that's already approved in the scope of practice with physical therapists. Again, I just ask you to join the other states that have already approved it, and I think it's a step in the right direction because It will provide another alternative for PTs to treat severe pain without drugs, lower costs, and speed up healing. Please vote green.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Conzett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Are we at the discussion point?
We are at remarks on the bill debate, pro or con. Should we vote for it or against it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was one of the dissenting votes in the Health Committee on this. I've done a lot of research since this came out. It was, I believe, 11 yay, 2 nay. The South Dakota Medical Examiners Board didn't issue a definitive paper saying that they weren't were not for dry needling, but they did say that they do not wish to have this as an option here in South Dakota. I find it difficult to question doctors on what they do or do not know about dry needling. This is not taught at USD, and although they go under a very rigorous curriculum, this is something that we need to pay attention to because it is a 4-inch needle. In order to get certified in this, we were told 50 hours. I did some research and I found you go to a weekend program and it's 27 hours. So in a weekend, you can get certified in this. I find that alarming. One of the testifiers even said that there's so much to know and there's too little time to get it all in. So that was also an issue. Another issue is who's responsible? If something goes wrong, and something always can go wrong in this situation, is the PT responsible? Do they have the proper training to, if they do damage a nerve, to correct that? The medical examiners view this as a medical procedure. No surrounding states, and they said, and there are a lot of states that have this, but no surrounding states have had legislation come in and supersede the medical board of examiners for dry needling. Please vote red.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Latterell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support the bill. I think that if you look at the American Physical Therapy Association, they are a very reputable group, and there is a lot of research done on this as they've been practicing it for a while. So I don't see there to be anything scary that we need to be afraid of, so I do encourage you to support the bill. I also just got up to see if I could get under your skin, see what you'd get to me.
Well, Representative Latterell, was that question in doubt? All right. Representative York.
Yes, I would also like to encourage you to vote green on this. As we've heard, the Physical Therapy Association is a very reputable group. Last year, as I recall, they came and of their own fruition had us make a law that they had to have continuing education every year. That's something they did for themselves because they care about their profession. The point that our good friend up front made was that this is a good way to take care of pain other than taking drugs. It's something that we're always looking for right now to try and get people away from opioids. This is an excellent way to do that. The physical therapists go to very rigorous training, and even if it's only a 27-hour course they take to get this particular training, that's not unusual for any profession that once you're in it, you say, I want to learn more about this specific thing or that specific thing. So this is just another way that they're increasing their knowledge of their profession and passing that on to their patients by having one more tool to use. Thank you.
Thank
Vote
you.
green.
Thank you.
It's a good bill.
Representative DeSanto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to say that this came through Health and Human Services, and the American Medical Association, their lobbyists did speak about concerns as far as something happening, something going wrong. But when asked if there were examples or any statistics specifically that he could cite on something going wrong from this procedure, he was unable to provide any at all. And so it seemed more that there was this sort of, well, things could go wrong. Well, you know what? Things can always go wrong. I mean, things can go wrong walking out the door right now. The reality is they were unable to cite any specific examples at all of anything going wrong. So please support this bill.
Further remarks? Representative McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to ask you to support this bill. We had therapists that were there probably for 30, 35 years. And what we're going to see, I think, if you, common knowledge, a knee surgery could go wrong. A hip surgery could go wrong. The 4-inch needle, they don't use a 4-inch needle all the time. Sometimes it's maybe only 1 inch. The question that I asked is, how do you get referred to these people? Well, you can go to a physical therapist on your own, but generally you're referred to them from a doctor. So I want you to give that some thought. This is a good bill. This is, again, a lot of people are going to natural instead of going to the opioids or other, aspirins or other drugs. So just another way to relieve pain. My mother has a degenerating back in her spine. This is one of the ways that you can relieve that pain. Otherwise, there is no relief, unfortunately. So thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just have a question for the sponsor.
Go ahead and state your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the liability side of this, who's liable if something goes wrong? Does it fall under the physical therapist that's doing this?
Okay, the question is who's liable for performing the dry needling? Sponsor wish to answer that question? Representative Steinauer?
Yes, I do. My assumption is it would go to the courts, but it would be the physical therapist. They're going to carry malpractice like any other medical profession. So.
Representative May, anything else? Okay. Anyone wish to speak for a first time before Representative Steinauer offers his concluding remarks? Representative Steinauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to clear up one thing. With all due respect to the good representative from Pennington County, the Board of Medical Examiners never ruled that they didn't want this to happen. In 2008, there was a request to determine whether the current scope of practice allowed them to do it. And they ruled that the scope of practice did not allow them. That's not the same as saying we don't want you to do it. So there's a little distinction there. The process here, again, that was followed, it was not trying to necessarily to skip over them, but to recognize that that's what needed to happen first, is that it needed to be included in the scope, and then minimum standards could be established, and that those minimum standards could be as low as what 30 other states have chosen, and that's nothing beyond the doctorate of physical therapy. I believe the PTs are prepared to go and ask for additional requirements for training because they think it's in their best interest, the ones that I've talked to. But that is the next step. First step, get this in the scope. It's a good bill. Please vote for it.
Seeing no further remarks, the question before the body is final passage of House Bill 1079. All those members in favor shall vote yes. All those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine. The member shall proceed to vote.
Representative Pischke votes no. Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 59, nays 6, excused 5.
House Bill 1079, having received the majority vote of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed approved.
House Bill 1080, an act to revise certain requirements to qualify for emblems specialty plates for motor vehicles.
House Bill 1080, having had a second reading, is up for final debate. Are there any remarks? Representative Shane Fish.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 1080 will bring more flexibility to nonprofit organizations who would like to qualify for an emblem specialty plate for motor vehicles. Right now, an organization needs 200 members to qualify. This bill adds an option of having 200 donors or volunteers. This bill is supported by the Department of Revenue. Department of Revenue testified in committee that the department receives applications for the emblem specialty plates, and they've had to turn down very reputable organizations. Some organizations do not have membership, but they have a lot of volunteers or donors. This bill will allow organizations like Feeding South Dakota, who don't qualify now as their bylaws state that they don't have members, to be able to get a specialty emblem plate with this rule change. It will allow more organizations to qualify while still maintaining the threshold of 200. These nonprofits can sell the decals to their members or supporters as another fundraising tool for their organization.
Further remarks? Any further remarks on House Bill 1080? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the body is final passage of House Bill 1080. All those members in favor shall vote aye. Those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine. The member shall proceed to vote.
Representative Frymuller, Representative Mills. Frymuller votes aye. Representative Mills. Representative Mills votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 65 and excused 5.
Well, how'd that get off the consent calendar, Representative Shane Fish? House Bill 1080, having received the majority vote of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. Questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed approved.
House Bill 1033, having had its second reading, is up for reconsideration and final passage.
House Bill 1033, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final debate. Are there any remarks?
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Anderson.
I have an amendment.
Is that Amendment 1033 WB?
It is.
Do you wish to move it at this time?
I do.
Second? Okay. Go ahead and discuss the amendment, Representative Anderson.
Can I speak to the amendment and the bill, or would you prefer just the amendment at this time?
Well, you can, if you need to pitch the amendment by getting into the bill, we'll allow that. But let's get the amendment on or off the bill, and then we can proceed to the whole thing.
Okay. Basically, in terms of the dollars raised. In our conversation yesterday, there was concern about these dollars going to the Division of Insurance, and do they really need these dollars to clean up all of these license issues that we're trying to deal with in this bill? And the Division of Insurance really wants to get this mess cleaned up. And so they don't actually need the dollars. They can do this process because for the most part it's going to be a one-time process, and then they'll be on the system on a recurring basis. Fairly easy, it's computerized. So it isn't going to be a huge expense for them. They're more than happy to get this done because they need to have it done. The problem is, I don't want to lose the revenue. Most of this money is going to come from out of state. And so what the amendment says is that the dollars will go directly to the general fund. They do not go to the Division of Insurance. It goes directly to the general fund. So that's basically the amendment, and if we can get that passed, then I will go on and provide a little further information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, okay, the question before us is Amendment 1033 WB. Further remarks on the motion to amend? Okay, I'm going to come to Representative Gosh, then we'll come back to you, Representative Willardson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday we heard this argument on the previous bill, and one of the arguments was we need this money to clean this up. Doesn't pass a 2/3 vote, needs a 2/3, so we're going to bring it back. We're going to change the rules so that way it only needs a simple majority vote, and we're going to say, well, we're going to completely turn this around, and now it's a revenue generating bill. So we don't need the fee for cleaning this up anymore. We need it for revenue. So what are we doing? Are we raising taxes, or are we trying to clean up? I mean, the original intent of this bill is no longer even existent. And not only that, we're changing the language so we could change the rules from a 2/3 to a simple majority. To me, it just seems like this was what we said it was going to be yesterday, what they argued against us yesterday, that this was nothing but a revenue-generating bill, and now they're changing it and saying, okay, yeah, you were right. This is a revenue-generating bill, and that's what we want it for. So I strongly urge you guys to turn this amendment down. It was defeated yesterday in its original form. I ask that we defeat the amendment and send it on. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Gosh. Representative Willardson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure that the comments that the Division of Insurance doesn't need the money are entirely correct. It might be more correct to say that the Division of Insurance wants to have the rest of the bill, and if they don't have the money, they can live with it. They can make it work. I think that's probably more correct. I think this is a good amendment. It's a friendly amendment. I'd encourage you to pass the amendment, and then we can go on and pass the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Johns.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Let's keep in mind that these companies have a license. And currently, this license is good forever. They're not being regulated. I'd love to have a driver's license that's good forever. They need to be regulated. We need this bill, just so you have the regulation, so that they have to report every year. And then the department can take action when they commit any violations. The way it is now, they just get a license. It's good forever. What a deal. Let's not miss the point here. They need regulation. They need to report regularly so that the department can keep good records on them, and the department's job, of course, is to regulate them. So let's let them regulate it, and let's get this bill passed.
Okay, further remarks? Motion to amend, Representative Pischke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, as this bill came through my committee, there was no talk of that they need the regulation. All they wanted to do was clean up this database. And now I've heard the year 1967 kicked around. In committee, it was 1941. You know, they have this license in perpetuity. For some reason, we were just fine having a license in perpetuity since 1941. Here we are, 2018, and all of a sudden we need regulation? No, thank you. We don't need it. Let's vote down the amendment, and let's kill the bill like we did yesterday. Thank you.
Well, very good. Further remarks on the motion to amend? Seeing no further remarks, the question before us is adoption of Amendment 1033 WB. All those members in favor of the motion to amend, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Motion carries. We're now on 1033 as amended. Further remarks? Representative Willitson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask the members of the House to keep in mind the importance of regulating these business entities. It is important that the Division of Insurance is able to do that. We talked about it at length yesterday. I'd ask you to please consider voting green, and let's pass this bill and get on to the next order of business. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks? 1033 is amended. Representative Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just urge you to resist this bill. You've sat in here yesterday, you sat in here today. The story keeps changing as to why we need this and why we don't need it, and this won't much affect people in state. It'll be out of state. We need to get back to the principle of why we do what we do, and we need to not bend on our principles. Fees should only be enacted to cover the cost of the required business. Now, we heard they don't really need the money. If they don't really need the money, then we shouldn't be charging a fee. If we need to regulate them, then we can regulate them without using a fee. So there's just so much going on with this and so many conflicting stories, and we are not here to raise fees and raise taxes for no reason when we don't need to. So I would urge you to vote no on this.
Further remarks? Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, we do lots of things to try and make this government operate. And this is one of those that should be a no-brainer. Almost all of these dollars are going to come from out-of-state corporations that want to do business in the state of South Dakota. There's no way of knowing exactly how many. The numbers were estimated at about 1,200 in-state corporations and over 6,000 out-of-state. We don't know how many of those are still live, valid corporations. But for easy math, let's say 1,000 of them are in-state. $20 a pop, $20,000, not that much money, no big deal. But if 6,000 of those other corporations from out of state are going to pay a $50 fee, let's say 5,000 of them only are going to pay a $50 fee. That's $250,000. Now we're starting to talk about we could do some programs with $250,000. We've got some folks that want a law school enhancement. I'd like to see state radio get funded in Southern Union County. We've got people that want a veterans cemetery. There's lots of things we need to do in this state. Why don't we let some folks from out of state pay for it? I mean, it's just a perfect setup. And quite frankly, we ought to be raising that fee. I talked to some insurance agents at the function last night. In a lot of states, you're paying $200 or more for the right to do business in somebody else's state. Think of the money that'd bring in. Maybe we can hold down our own taxes that we as South Dakota citizens pay if we're willing to charge a fee to somebody from out of state. Please vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Gosh has not spoken on the bill. Then we'll come to Representative Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I'm just going to reiterate here what we're doing. Guys, they brought us this bill yesterday. It's a complete different thing, and now we're bringing a tax, and we're taxing out-of-state people, and we should raise the fee, and we should make this, I mean, we're supposed to be a business-friendly state here. We're literally taxing so we can fund other programs. This is no longer anything to do with the intent of the bill of cleaning up past entities and who's not in business. This is all about increasing a tax today. And yes, they are reiterating and being very specific on out-of-state, but it's still in-state. We're still hurting the in-state insurance agencies. And I get it that other states do it but I don't think of that as a reason we should do it. And again, this bill no longer has anything to do with its original intent. It's simply a tax. And a yes vote today, I got to say, is a yes vote for an increased tax.
Okay, Representative Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise because this is really a consumer protection. I don't think the money's a big deal. It's to make sure that we know who's in our state. And it's to make these people responsible. If you pay a life insurance for 20 or 40 years, you need to know that they're still there. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Otten.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, fellow members. I'm not sure if I got anything real intelligent to add to this, but I'm going to get back to the bill a little bit and compare it, I guess, to myself with corporation that I hold and a couple LLCs. I have to file my reports with the Secretary of State's office so they can keep the rolls of who are active corporations in the state. It costs me a fee to do that. I don't see what the problem is doing that within the Division of Insurance for these either. And these are out-of-state corporations. We should know what's going on, and they should pay a fee to file their paperwork. There's a cost to the state to process that stuff.
Further remarks, Representative Howard's going to speak for a second time. McCleary, Representative McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to agree with the previous speaker. This came before Commerce. I was there. I'm not an insurance person by any means, but I think we need to just look. The Division of Insurance wants to improve their data integrity. That to me just says a lot right there. We're getting kind of hung up on the money thing. It's not a lot of money. I don't agree with the tax issue or what we're talking about here. I really don't. This is something that they've been looking forward to taking care of out-of-state businesses. Yeah, I get a little bit frustrated here with some of the minor money talk myself. So I would ask you to vote green on this. Thank you.
All right, anyone else want to speak for a first time before Representative Howard speaks for a second time? Representative Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are getting hung up on the money. We're kind of getting hung up, though, I believe, on the principle. It doesn't matter where this money comes from. There's a principle involved here. This is a fee and should be treated as a fee, but we played a game in order to get it now treated as a tax so we can get it passed with a lower threshold. And then people go back to arguing to pass it because we need this fee in order to regulate them. Then let's treat it like a fee and make it require a 2/3 vote. What we're doing here is wrong, and this needs to be defeated. Fees should be used for what they are, their stated purpose. The items mentioned earlier that we would love to have, we need to fund this, we need to fund that. Well, fine, then we fund those with our sales and use tax. Or we create a specific fee to pay for those items. But we don't pretend that we're enacting a fee for this purpose and then change the whole process to treat it like a tax so we can pass it so that we can use it for all these other items. It's just this, I'm appalled, and I would ask you to vote no.
Okay, closing remarks. Representative Willitson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, again, I'd like to thank the House for allowing this issue to come back before us again today. I'd also like to ask you to keep your eye on the ball. The real goal here that we want to accomplish is to allow the Division of Insurance to operate in a more efficient manner. As I said yesterday, they've got records going back to 1967. And they don't have any authority to verify those records. A responsible agency would want to clean those up and would want to take care of them. A responsible agency would want to do the things necessary so that they can be responsible to the people of South Dakota when an issue comes up from someone from South Dakota and they need help from the Division of Insurance. That's what we want to do here. As I said yesterday, we've had a long-standing tradition that in South Dakota, the people that use the services pay the fees. Well, that didn't work. So thus we have the amendment today. I think it's a good amendment. I think it still charges those businesses for their license in South Dakota, and I think they should pay a fee. I think they've, quite frankly, gotten by for far too long without paying a fee. I said yesterday, is it fair for me as an individual agent to pay the fee and the corporations or the LLPs or the other business entities to not pay the fee? I think if you really look at it from that direction, you'll have to agree. This is a good bill. Let's pass it. Send it on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, I'm just going to clarify the ruling from the speaker's rostrum, but this is a fee increase, and it's a simple majority because it's a fee, not a tax. And the effect of the amendment was to take it from a special appropriation, which would require a 2/3 vote, to a general appropriation, which keeps it as a simple majority, just for purposes of clarity. So the question before the body is final adoptions of House Bill 1033 as amended. All those members in favor shall vote aye. All those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members shall proceed to vote. Representative Allers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Personal privilege.
Granted.
In an effort to lighten the mood for a moment, I'd like to recognize another member, former member of this body. He was also a member of that other body across the hall and the inventor of the internet, former Representative Frank Klochek.
Well, we can only assume he's heard that we're going to make Chislik the official appetizer, and he's here to amend that to include Kuchen as the official dessert. Yeah, that one, Kuchen.
Representative Wismer.
All right. Excuse her.
Mr. Speaker, all members present have voted.
Madam Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were yeas 41, nays 23, and excused 6.
All right. House Bill 1033, as amended, having received the majority vote of the members-elect, is hereby declared passed. All right. Questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed approved. Now, we got a few things to do. First is, we come and go, we miss bill votes. Once you're taken off, you gotta let the front desk know so that we can make sure you're excused for a vote, okay? Just an order process. We haven't talked about that yet this year. Second, Representative Tolson is back from a visit to his sister out in the Carolinas. And then we missed Representative Gosh's birthday. And his lovely daughter Tegan here, she said, can we sing my dad happy birthday on the House floor? And I said, well, would you like to lead us? And she said, no, I'd like Representative Tolson to lead us. So Representative Tolson, would you lead us in singing happy birthday?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Spence, when was your birthday? Oh, happy birthday. Are you guys and gals ready to go? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Spencer. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Hey, Spencer.
34.
Is he a good dad? Yes. All right. Most of the time. Thank you. All right. We've got a few things to take care of. I got to sign some bills. What's next? Oh, we have to defer the balance of the calendar. Representative Qualm.
Mr. Speaker, I move we defer the remainder of the calendar till Thursday, January 25th, the 12th legislative day.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay. Announcements.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Representative Watton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Ag tomorrow morning at 7:45, and for any of my committee members, I am looking for a vice chair tomorrow morning, as my vice chair from Nisland is out of town. If you have any interest, get a hold of me, or I'm going to appoint one of you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Further announcements. Representative Allers.
Appropriations, 8 a.m., bill hearings.
Thank you. Further announcements. Representative Bartles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to remind everyone that there's a representative from the political and government portion of Facebook here, and Ava is going to be giving us a presentation on how to use Facebook to communicate with constituents. And it's immediately following this in 414.
Room 414. Very good. Thank you. Further announcements. Representative Steinhauer.
Health and Human Services tomorrow morning, 7:45.
Speaker.
Representative Goodwin.
Reminder tax tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I said that wrong, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
I made the wrong announcement. I apologize. Transportation tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Transportation tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Very good. Representative Haugard.
Yes, House tax tomorrow morning at 8:15. Room
There you
414.
go. Okay. Very good. I've got some bills to sign here. The Speaker signs House Bill 1068, an act to revise certain provisions regarding the collection of motor fuel tax. House Bill 1049, an act to revise certain references to the Internal Revenue Code. House Bill 1048, an act to revise certain provisions referring to the statements on auditing standards utilized by the Department of Revenue. And I'm signed Senate Concurrent Resolution number 1, honoring the memory and accomplishments of President Grover Cleveland. Anything else? Representative Ketwick.
Yes, tomorrow, 10 a.m., House Local Government. We've got a bill to take up.
House Local Government. Further announcements? Representative Beal. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.